Hello and welcome everyone to the Transform Your Relationship Show. I'm Laura Rubenstein here with the wonderful Dr. Rhoberta Shaler. Hi, Rhoberta.
Hi, Laura. It's the day after Memorial Day, and we're all fresh-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to roll. So, exciting things to talk about today. What's up?
Yes, well, the term gaslighting has come up in your world and in my world, and I wanted to just kind of do an expose on gaslighting. What is it, and how do we deal with it? Because it's insidious and it is, as the title says, crazy making. So welcome to those of you who are joining us for this conversation on gaslighting. If you have questions, we'd love them. Feel free to comment. I will go look for them on our Transform Your Relationships Facebook page. So what the first thing we should talk about, I think, is, well, what is this word gaslighting? I've been having a lot of conversations with people about this word. In fact, I understand it comes from a movie called The Gaslight.
It does. It's from a movie called Gaslight, and in that movie, there was a man who would come home and the woman would say, this moved in the house, or this piece of furniture was moved, and he'd say, no dear, no dear, no, it's just the way it always was. And he would do that over and over till she started losing her sanity. And so he was gaslighting her by defining her reality, which is basically what gaslighting is. It's, I will determine what's true for you, and I will tell you what you think, feel, need, and want. And I expect you to believe what I'm saying over what you believe is true for you.
Mm.
So gaslighting is telling somebody they're wrong about what they think, feel, need, and want.
Oh, that's not very nice.
No, that's very unnice. And it's a crazy making thing, which is why I use that term in even a title of my book, one of my books, because if you say, I heard you say that yesterday, and they say, oh, you heard it wrong. I didn't say that at all. I never would say that. What's wrong with you? And then you click on the tape or the recording and say, here's what you said. A hijackal, a person who's a gaslighter by trade, is going to say, you don't have my permission to tape me. They are not going to address the fact that they actually said it and you have it on record,
Right.
right? And that's when you begin to see the disconnect, because they are trying to define your reality for you and take the power, take your power away, which is really difficult. It's a form of emotional and psychological abuse, and it's so insidious. So here's an example. Someone asked me the other day in a group, they said, how do children get gaslighted?
Mm.
I said, well, it's simple. They have a parent who tells them what they feel. So the child says, I'm really sad. You don't have a reason to be sad. No, and then the child gets confused, like, I'm feeling really sad. You don't have any reason to be sad. There are children starving in, West Africa,
I'll give you a reason to be sad.
and then they go to that. So when they say, a child is crying and you have no reason to be crying, if you need to cry, I'll give you a reason to cry. That's saying, I want to be the one who causes your feelings. And that is a big narcissistic stance. And it's maybe many other things beyond and worse than narcissistic, but it's a hijackal stance. And hijackals all gaslight because they have to be right.
Mm.
And so if they can take control over you by defining your reality for you and make you second guess yourself, they think they're on top.
It's kind of like they lie in a way that but they're believing themselves. Like, and
Well,
that they're trying to create this alternate reality that you're like, huh? They sound so convincing, and it's like you're almost like, but oh, really? Like you're almost convinced. Other people would be convinced if they didn't know the whole story, right?
mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the whole idea is to catch you off guard and make you second guess yourself, because the hijackal has to be right. They have to do what I call winning in every moment at
Mm.
every time in every circumstance. So if they don't like the fact that you remembered that they said something bad, they will tell you that you don't listen very well and you twisted it and you misconstrued it. And what's wrong with you? Right?
Hmm.
Because they're not going to address the fact that they actually did it, because they're not going to win in the moment if they say that they did. So to have power over you, they have to tell you you're wrong. And that's very crazy making. And over time, it wears you down and tears you down as well as puts you down. And you're like, boy, I can't even make my way out of a wet paper bag.
And and the other thing it does is if it's starting to affect you, it's starting to affect the relationships you have with other people. So you may have it with one person, like a boss or a significant other, but then if you have family members or you have coworkers or you have whoever, you're they're trying to keep that reality in check too if they're in a group, if they've been made crazy already by it. You know what I mean?
Yes, it's very insidious. And when you start, if you have this at home, for instance, if you have a hijackal partner or you had a hijackal parent, you start to diminish and diminish and diminish and get kind of watery and unclear. And, oh, did I really say that? I didn't mean to say that. Well, I could have said that. Well, and you get into that place where now the other person has got you on the run and they're going to nail you down.
Or you feel like you're on eggshells.
Well, you're always on eggshells, yes, with the hijackal. And what they do is they just make you feel like you can't trust yourself for anything. And that's the whole point.
And all you try to do is make them happy, and that's never enough, never going to be enough.
No, like there are many forms of gaslighting. I did a live stream on it last night called Sneaky Gaslighting
Mm.
on my YouTube channel, which is for relationship help. So there's a whole hour on there if you're listening and you want to hear more about it. But, gaslighting things that people do, they'll just blatantly lie, right? They'll just completely change the truth and leaves you with your head spinning, and maybe you don't speak up early enough and pretty soon you start going along with it.
Right.
Or you will say to the person that they did or said this, and the other person will just completely deny, and they'll get hot under the collar and forceful, and they'll just deny. And maybe it's something more subtle, like you have a job that you really, really love. And what do? Well, they start saying, oh, well, only losers do that kind of a job. Or I don't know why you're so excited about that. That job doesn't mean anything, and
Or
or
why are you putting your job above me? You know that.
well, they'll just tear it down because you love it. They'll tear it down,
Hmm.
right? And that's pretty ugly, right? And there are just so many things that they do. Like
Sad.
what hijackals love to do is to keep you in incredulity and uncertainty and ambiguity. So if they can get you to say, well, I'm not sure now. I was sure a minute ago, but now I'm not sure. Did you mean this? And I took the meaning, or did you really say that? And now you're saying the opposite. And so you get
Right.
into this very confusing morass of, is it me? Is it them? Whatever. And then they've got you on the run. And that's what they want. And then a really big thing that they do, and we've talked about this before, is the things that they're most afraid are of that are true for them. They're afraid they're true for them. They project and make them true for you, which is another kind of gaslighting. So if the hijackal feels like they're overweight and unattractive, they will say, well, I don't know why anyone would want you because you're overweight and unattractive. But their greatest fear is that they're overweight and unattractive, so they're not going to own up to that. So now it's dumped on you. And so these are all forms of gaslighting.
Oh yeah, that's the one that irks me the most is when they're saying the thing out of their mouth to somebody that's pointing, like when you point the finger, how many are pointing back at you? It's like, no, let's think about this. I think that's the way you feel about you, but that's not something you could say
No,
back to.
you can't say that
You
to a
can't say it.
hijackal because you don't poke hijackals any more than you poke bears.
You
You
kind
don't
of
poke
you put
hijackals.
defenses up, right?
No, actually, the best thing to do is to fall silent,
Right.
and I don't mean the silent treatment. I just mean like, oh, you could be right. Never thought about it that way. I'll have to think about that. Just benign things that kind of indicate a level of acceptance, but stop the conversation.
And
You're no longer interesting or interested.
right, and don't let yourself get triggered by it. I don't know how you do that very well, but hopefully some of those, interesting, something to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting opinion.
Yeah.
Huh.
And if you
Hmm.
give them, one of the things that you can do with a hijackal is give them a little bit by saying, "Oh, I'll have to think about that more," as if they'd just given you a nugget, something that you would dwell on for a while, and that allows them to say, "Oh, got him or her. I got in under their skin, or I made them think, or whatever." But it's insidious, and you really have to see it coming, and it can be very, very subtle, or it can be very overt. Like, I've just had this experience where someone went on my website and they're listening to my videos on YouTube and everything. And then they took the information and they started using it and blaming someone else for being a hijackal and saying that I said so. And this is one of the things we have to be careful with hijackals. Hijackals weaponize wisdom,
Mm,
right? And
yeah.
a fast way of understanding that would be thinking of Satan quoting the Bible, right? Like you just it's just so convoluted and nasty, and um, so many layers to it. Like when this happened, and somebody is quoting my work as proof that someone else is a hijackal, it was just such an indication that this person is a hijackal. But on the other hand, the whole reason my work is there is so that people will know when they're dealing with a hijackal.
Right. Oh
So
boy, that got really convoluted, didn't it
yeah,
now?
exactly. So for someone to go on and then use my words to say, no, you're the hijackal, um, oh, that really got into a funny place for me. And I can't do anything about it because the whole reason I have it up there is so people can identify it. But then if a hijackal gets hold of it and starts using it, oh, that's a
The gaslight. Yeah, it's
whole
like,
other level of gaslighting. Yeah.
oh wow. Yeah, and that's like using the work against people. And yeah, there's a fine line because, if I'm feeling like I'm in a relationship with a hijackal and I'm using your work to help me, am I also pointing back to that person, hey, you're a hijackal? Probably not, right?
No,
It's
no.
not how you
I
use your
mean,
work,
for the average person, they're going to read it and they're going to go, oh, I never thought of that. I never saw that. And they will work with themselves. They won't go out blaming. I hope they don't, because the whole reason for the work there is for you to have the aha within yourself, to have the light slowly come on that says, oh, that's what's happening in my relationship. What do I need to do to change? Because there's never a benefit in going out to a hijackal and saying you're a hijackal. There is no benefit. The benefit is in coming to that realization, doing your work yourself. And as I've said so many times, if there's physical or sexual abuse, go to the police. But if you're dawning realization that it is emotional abuse and verbal abuse that's going on, then you have the opportunity to awaken to that and do some work to understand what's going on within you that is needs to change, and then you make those changes and see if it changes the relationship, and then if it doesn't, then you go to an outside professional to help you to get out of the relationship, and
right?
maybe one or two. Like, I work with people to help them prepare for the leaving. Then they need an attorney who will help them accomplish the divorce, right? But that's the progress through the stages. It's not meant to be used as a hammer over somebody's head. It's meant to be used for you to come to a realization that this is what's happening.
Right.
And so often when you realize what's happening, in the primary relationship you're in, then you realize that probably it happened somewhere in your early life at home too. And so you get a double awakening,
Mhm.
like, oh, this pattern for me. But gaslighting is, people do it so frequently and sometimes very overtly, but mostly very covertly.
It's kind of almost like a fad now, and it's kind of scary because we see it a lot in journalism today. People quoting people who are basically saying gaslighting statements. And I think it's a strategy that can win over some and repel others, and it's lies. It feels really icky to
Yeah, well, what they say is it's easier to stop a speeding bullet from a gun than a word from somebody's mouth.
mm,
Because if they get a platform, if they're speaking online or on the news or whatever, and they say something, and a whole lot of people go, oh, that's the truth, and they start behaving from that, those same people are not going to listen to why that's not the truth later because now they already bought into it.
even if it's retracted, oh, we made a mistake, and
Or
quoting
I
that,
didn't
or
really mean that, or I was only
yeah,
kidding,
it's already
or
out there, and people have already gotten that imprinted in them, and
they're
they go
acting on it.
and they're looking for other evidence for it, and so they'll look for other, and it validates them, and then all of a sudden we have a whole bunch of people using gaslighting. So it's kind of epidemic. It's
Oh, it
continue.
is. It is. It's being perpetuated daily. And we need to see that because if somebody says this is a fact and they're gaslighting you, and you start thinking, oh, that's terrible. It's like something that happens on Facebook. Somebody puts up a URL and they say, oh, look, everybody needs to know about this. And then the next comment is that somebody's gone on Snopes and found it's a scam and it doesn't mean anything at all. How many people realize the scam or have just glommed onto the ain't it awful, the world's a terrible place?
Warning, I'm trying to protect you.
Right.
Yeah, and I always say always check Snopes.com, because chances are 90% of those that come to you by email have something fraudulent or faulty in them. And
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing.
And become your own expert in that way. Go and look for things. Go to Snopes, but also do little research. Find out, if this person who's written this is a qualified expert or is somebody who's kind of a fringe person,
A
and what's
friend sent this to me a lot of times. A dear friend, somebody who
yeah.
is a medical professional, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
Not
but
necessarily.
back to the personal gaslighting. If you're with somebody who, have you ever been with somebody and they're telling a story that you two shared and they're just a little bit off in the truth? They've maybe 6 degrees off, and you think, well, I'm not going to make a big deal of that because it's mostly the truth. And so you let it go. And then the next time they tell it, they're 12 degrees off, and you think, oh, I didn't speak up last time. This is the way gaslighting is. It's incremental and insidious. So, if you can get used to jumping in and having your gaslight radar working and say, just quite simply, oh, that's not the way I remember it. No, that's not the way it struck me. No, that's not the decision that I took from it. And you just state what's true for you, as opposed to giving credence to what the other person said. Then you start to make an equation that has more balance. And that's the important thing, is to
Mm,
allow that internal dialogue that you need to have to become external. um, well, that's interesting, but it's not the way that I remember it.
hmm
Instead of, crying or I'm upset or, oh, I'm sorry or all that kind of thing, you don't want to go to any of those places. You want to just meet this with that. No, that's not my recollection. And when you give yourself that affirmation and you give yourself that right to just speak up, you begin to put people on notice that you're not accepting the gaslighting without pointing a finger, without making them wrong, without getting into a lot of emotion. And it's never a good idea to get into any of those places when you're dealing with a difficult person. because they have to win. So why would you set yourself up for that?
Yeah. Never
Just
try to out manipulate the master manipulator because you'll always lose. So just so this is what I have a question for you about is, okay, so if I go ahead and say, oh, that's not what I recall, or, that's interesting, but not true for me. Do I do that if we're in public and they're gaslighting?
um, yeah, yeah, you're not going to make them lose face by saying that. When I
Mhm.
wrote Kaizen for Couples, this is a technique called the personal weather report. You can use it everywhere, because you're not ascribing blame, you're not anything, you're just talking about yourself. And my definition of being assertive is to know that you deserve to take up space and draw breath, and therefore your assertion is that you are allowed to say what you think, feel, need, and want as long as you don't mention another human by name or pronoun. So I can speak of my experience. I can say, oh, that's interesting. That's not how I remembered it. You can bet your bottom dollar that unless you're dealing with somebody who's really tipped, they're not going to have the fight with you right then and there, but you will have stopped a bit of the conversation because they're in a saving face situation, and you have not made them look bad. You've simply made a statement about you. Now, caveat is that they're going to say that you called them out in front of other people. So that's a decision that you have to make because they have a warped way of viewing things. But for your own sense of self and your own living from a place of alignment, to be able to start saying things like that just quietly with no charge, just neutrally, yeah, I don't remember it quite that way. Just start doing that. Even if you have to start doing it in your head and it doesn't come out your mouth for a while, just start doing it. It's part of your Teflon shield that I talk about. It's like, nope, not going to let that one in. Right? I'm just going to put that back out there in neutral ground. No,
Mhm.
right?
Yep, these hijackals give us lots of practice in how to take care of ourselves, especially in, how do we word things so that we are reflecting that personal weather report. So we talk about ourselves only, and we're not putting blame in because the minute you put the word you in there, it's like all attack forces come back at you.
Well, yes, yes, immediately. And that's why to be assertive, you have the right to say what you think, feel, need, and want as long as you don't mention another human by name or pronoun.
Hmm.
Like I'm feeling disrespected right now is not saying you're disrespectful because of this, this, and this. Now, of course, a hijackal just hears the big notes. You're doing this for yourself. You are just standing in the present moment telling your truth. So, yes, sometimes they'll react poorly. You just say, no, I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just saying I feel disrespected right now. And I'd be happy to share with you. If you're interested in knowing more about it, ask me a question. Right? Because we have to get to that place where we're not in retreat. We need to come to that place where we can hold our ground.
Hmm.
And that's
So if
just
they come
quiet.
back and they say, well, how am I disrespecting you?
And you say, well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I feel disrespected when um, words feel diminishing, right? Like that create a contrast that I don't see, or that I feel like there's superiority and inferiority inferred, or you talk about it in general terms and you own it. Like when I hear this, it strikes me this way. So you're not blaming anybody for it. You're just letting them know how it lands. And yeah, they're not going to be happy about it. But if you do it very quietly and just very neutrally, but you just say it with not a lot of energy, just say it, let it fall flat if it does. But you're putting someone on notice that I heard you. And when, it would be good to stop now.
Not only did I hear you, I, I had a reaction to it, and it was not a good reaction, and I don't like it.
And I'm not going to put up with it.
I'm not.
Basically, you're putting them on notice that I'm speaking up now.
Hmm. Time to take control of my environment.
Yeah, like nobody's going to define my reality for me, and that means you. Right? But what we tend to do is we tend to wait until we get too emotional, and then when we blurt things out, you've heard me say before about anger that when you blurt, you hurt. Well, in this case, if you blurt it out, you'll get hurt because they will be offended and they will jump all over you.
Yep.
So you don't want to do that. You want to very, very keenly just say, not quite how I remember it.
Yep. Exactly.
And if they don't show any interest in that, let it lie. But you have started making a statement saying, I am listening. And it's not coming, I'm not allowing it in. It is not affecting me. I am saying no to it.
And this is effective with coworkers. This is effective in the workplace as well as in personal relationships. And it's a very, if you can say it very neutrally, then, what can they come back and do? Their behavior will speak for itself, especially if it's done in the presence of others. If you're
Mm-hmm.
the calm one taking a stand for, hey, my opinion is valid and I remember it differently.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And, when talking about the co working situation, one of the reasons for email, one of the uses for email is to have people confirm things in writing. So, you say something to someone like, is this what's going to happen? I heard you say this, and these are the things that I think are going to happen. Could you please confirm? And so they send a confirmation email. Then the next meeting they're in, they'll say, I never said that. And you say, well, in reference to your confirmation email, and you go on, right? Uh,
I've confirmed things and they've denied it.
exactly. And which is why
Yeah.
you have your email.
No, in email. I've confirmed things in email and they say, oh, I never said that. Like
Right.
they,
But then you say to them, well, actually, I do have your confirmation email. Maybe you forgot.
well, no, I've sent an email after our conversation. Hey, I'm just going to document what we just said. And they said, oh, no, I never said that.
Oh, I see. They're not willing to confirm that they
They're
just
not
said
willing.
that.
Yes. That's,
Mm.
and it sounds like you recorded it. I'm like, well, not going there, but that's what
Well,
I remember.
let me just bring up something about recording. Everybody in whatever country you're in and whatever state or province you're in, you need to look up the laws, the recording laws, because you're going to have a one-party consent or a two-party consent law wherever you are. And a one-party consent law means as long as you're a participant in the conversation, you can record it. You don't need the other person's consent. And for some of my clients, I have introduced them to this. I haven't bought one, but it looks wonderful. It's on Amazon, and it's a small USB recorder that is voice activated and records 288 hours. And I tell my female clients, just put it in your bra.
Yeah.
and and if you're in a state that has one party consent, put it in your bra. And as soon as he escalates or gets angry or whatever is happening, you will have a record of it. And then you will keep the recording and have it transcribed and use it in court. And these are important things to know, because if you're in a workplace that has one party consent, you can do the same thing. You know, technology spies on us. Yes, we know all that and the downside, but there is an upside. If you have somebody who is verbally abusing you or overshadowing you or using their power over you, and you're in a one party consent state, you can record them and there's no refuting it. You can then go and say, here's what happened, right? And you go to the right authority and you have that. There's no refuting it. Now, of course, there's all kinds of political games that go on, small p and large p political games, but you can do something about it. And when I have clients too, who the children come back from being with the other parent, and they're in a one party consent state, and they have that recording device, and they don't interrogate the children. They're hanging out with the children, and the children start talking about something awful that happened. They have that on tape, right? And that's useful in court.
Yep. Recording is useful. And thank you for letting us know about the one party consent versus two party and look that up. That's great. This has been very enlightening about gaslighting and how to deal with it, mostly how to state your position, how to not go crazy, right? When
Yeah.
somebody else is trying to say, you, what a stupid question, or, that is totally false, or they're speaking something that's exactly about themselves and putting it on you. There's so many forms of gaslighting that it seems like if that one tactic doesn't work, they might go to another tactic.
Oh, they will. They will for sure. You can guarantee that. I can guarantee that because they have to win.
Yeah,
So if I can't win with my sword, I'll win with my knife or my gun,
yeah.
right?
And what I know, Roberta, is you're one who can help people really take a stand for themselves and deal with this and either get out of the situation or deal with it more powerfully. So, what should they go to your website first, or where would you like them to visit to get
Oh,
more
yes.
information?
Go to my website. That's the shortest possible distance. Go and I do offer a one-time 1 hour initial consultation for only $97. So just go to forrelationshiphelp.com/join and you can schedule that right away. And then we can see where you want to go from there, but you'll get you some questions answered. Or come to my live stream on my YouTube channel for Relationship Help every Monday night at 6 o'clock. Or especially become a member of my membership program, optimizecircles.com. It's completely safely off social media. We have our own discussion threads that work just like Facebook. I bought all that software to make sure we can do it off social media. And then you can see webinars and you can come to my Ask Me Anything group calls and you can really get a lot of support for very little money. So go to optimizecircles.com and join in there.
Your information is so valuable, even for people who have, any difficult people in their lives. I mean, it doesn't have to be a direct relationship. It could be one or two off, or in a coworker or a friend of a friend. Your information is rich and helpful because chances are, given statistics today, maybe you'll run across somebody who has these hijackal tendencies one way or another, and it's really important to know how to deal with them, so that you're feeling most empowered. Also, I want to see us diminish the growth of hijackals, and I'm not sure how we do that, but I think empowered people, can sway that.
I think people who can see what's going on are in such a better place to say no to it. So, informing yourself so that you really understand, have I been missing these things? When something feels off, do I know why it feels off?
Yeah,
And learning more and more about it because we do have an epidemic of hijackalism.
we do have an
you
epidemic
know
of hijackal.
and if we don't get powerful and say no to it, then people get away with it,
Yeah.
and we don't want that. We don't want that, and we don't want children observing it and being informed by it when they're at a young age particularly, and we don't want it being okay in organizations either.
Hmm. And sometimes we just need that extra confidence and that extra boost and support, knowing we're not alone. So I love what you're doing with the optimized circles. And I have, as you know, the feminine power cards that are supportive for women and men, but it's more of the principles that have to do with that feminine side of ourselves. But how do we take the strength from that? Because a lot of people think that feminine is not strong, but actually it's one of the most powerful forms of energy there are out there. So if you haven't gotten in touch with that feminine energy, Diane Heffman and myself do a live stream every Friday, usually
Yeah.
around 1 p.m. Pacific. It's on my personal timeline page, my profile, Laura Rubenstein, or it's facebook.com/Coach Laura. And we talk about these principles that can empower you. Or you can go to femininepowercards.com and check out the deck for yourself.
And I really suggest you do that because it's very calming. It's a wonderful practice. If you ever feel a little bit upset, just go and pull a card and yeah, it's a really good
Relax
thing
into.
to do. And also, Laura, you can help people with hypnosis if that's something that
Mhm.
they can come to you for and say, I know specifically what I need a little help on. Here's
Yep.
this. And that can be very, very supportive and calming and helping people redirect their energies. So
Especially if they're already in like your optimized circle or they're working with somebody professionally, there's always a way to, um, reinforce that work that they're doing and the goal they want to get to. So
Right.
we're a pretty powerful team.
We are. We are. And I have a new program called Transform After Abuse, and it's coming out at the beginning of August. And so our work about transformation is so aligned.
Hmm.
So, whatever you're resonating with and what we speak about, come and talk to us because there's so much richness here and we are pretty good supporters.
Yep. Whether you want to transform your relationship with yourself, with others, your business. I do a lot of business transformation with people,
Right.
and or you want to enhance yourself and get, and sometimes it's like who you associate with can help bring you to where you want to be. So we like associating with
Absolutely.
people.
Which is why Laura and I hang out so much.
Yes, we do. Well, we'll be back in another couple weeks with another Transform Your Relationships live show. In the meantime, we look forward to messaging with you here on Facebook or visit our websites. We'll see you next time.
Yes. Make it a great week.
Bye.